Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Autism Hope Alliance education page. I am just super excited to introduce our next guest. Sapna Fliedner is here, and she is talking about functional medicine and the prevention of disease through holistic lifestyle. So welcome. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me, Kristen.
Well, we've met, gosh, I think about a year or two ago, face to face at least. And, I am just so in awe of anybody who looks at a holistic approach on trying to help our kiddos. I just think that, to me, my biased opinion clearly is that we should always look at holistic approaches first, if we can, before we go, to look at further things. So I love that you're doing this talk. I think this is really, really important for our families out there. Before we get started, though, can you tell those that are watching why you're so passionate to help our families?
Well, I think that, especially the talk that I'm going to say today, it is, to me, these four pillars that we're going to talk about. People aren't doing these things. And I've had patients come to me who have seen every autism doctor, and then they come to me at the end, like, why didn't we see you first? And what I'm going to tell you is more like common sense stuff, but the problem is people aren't doing the common sense stuff. And I think that's why I'm so passionate about it, because you can heal your body. You can use nature. Obviously we are biohacking. There are supplements that help our kids, but if they're not doing major simple things, you're not going to see that much of a progress. So this is why I'm really passionate about it. It's just basically using, natural remedies or nature to heal you, which is free almost.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love how you say common sense. I know we're going to get into our first question of, what is the first pillar to the prevention of disease. But what had me thinking is I remember when I was first learning about different foods and diets and learning about probiotics and fermented foods. And I remember talking to my grandmother and I said, oh, I'm so excited. I'm going to be fermenting. Have you ever heard of this thing called fermentation? And she started laughing at me. She was like, Kristen, I grew up when I was younger on a farm. That is what you did on a farm. Like, this is not new. This is what people used to do. And then she even went on to tell me that when she was younger, when they would prescribe an antibiotic, they would prescribe a probiotic that went with it. So I don't know what happened from, the 1920s when she was born to where we are today, but somehow we kind of lost our way. So I love that you said common sense, because this is something that they used to do and a lot, way back, not really that long ago. And somehow we kind of lost our way. So let's dive in. Let's talk about what is the first pillar to the prevention of disease.
So the first pillar to me is food. So food is your medicine, okay? I see so many people they'll come to me whether they're on the autism spectrum or they're just, because I see everybody from kids to adults, and they're just not eating the right foods. And to me, the first thing I tell my patients, a lot of them, they come to me and they say, well, we're gluten and dairy free. Okay, well, that's just like this much of it. It goes way beyond that. And I really try to tell people, your food is your medicine. Does it come from a plant or was it made in a plant? Because even the people on the spectrum, they're like, oh, I made these, pancakes that were, made from almond flour. I made these muffins from almond flour. I made these, everything's like almond milk and almond cheese and almond this. And then one fine day, you're going to be allergic to almonds, right? So to me, it's like just using common sense, rotating everything and using foods that come from the earth naturally. If you think about it, cereal doesn't grow on trees. So I'm trying to tell people just, I tell my kids, does it come from the ground? Does it come from a tree? Does it come from a plant? Does it come from an animal? Is this natural? That's, I think, the main thing. And to me, there are actually 8 top foods that I tell all of my patients to avoid. And if you can avoid these top foods, I can almost guarantee you 70 to 80% of your problems are going to disappear. But the problem is these 8 foods are in everything. So I'll just quickly run through them. The first one, wheat. I don't have time to go into the details as to why, but that's another conversation. But wheat, so any gluten, dairy, soy, sugar, corn, hydrogenated oils, which I don't really call food, and artificial colors and flavors, which for obvious reasons, and eggs with a question mark, because half of our patients come in, we see their lab test, 50% are about allergic to eggs. So eggs can be very healthy for you, especially the yolk. So I tell people to get tested for that first, because when you're allergic to certain foods or you have food sensitivities, it causes inflammation in the body. So it's very hard to heal the body when you're allergic to something. So we remove it. But those are my top 8. And if you can get those out of the diet, you're going to see a huge, huge difference.
Well, and it's funny because I remember when my son was first diagnosed, I remember trying to go and try to make anything, and it was so difficult to take away those foods. And I would say 7 out of those 8 we don't give our son. Eggs we do, but it's usually baked in something. He can't have them actually scrambled or over easy. He doesn't do as well, but for some reason baked he seems to do maybe because it's just it's spread out over so much, I'm not sure, but I remember trying to make all of his stuff, and it was so difficult because they didn't have what they have today. So 15 plus years ago, you would try to make a cookie, a waffle, a bread, whatever that was you were trying to do. Oh my goodness gracious, there'd be like 30 ingredients trying to figure out all these different things, and they never turned out right. And today, when I talk to families, they'll say, oh, I can't do that. And I said, well, gosh, you were talking about gluten-free, dairy-free. Really, gluten-free, dairy-free, soy-free, those 3 at least, and really sugar-free even, like no sugars, are, if you stay in the produce section and meat department, for the most part, yes, I know fruits have natural sugars, but we're talking about processed sugars, I'm like, just stay in that department. You're pretty much going to be 90% of what you can eat will be in there.
There's a lot of gluten-free junk. So
there is so much.
Gluten-free cookies and gluten-free cakes, and it's like, no, we don't need that. That's not what our
ancestors. There's so much sugar in them. There's so much sugar in them.
There's so much sugar, and I try to take a very old kind of I studied Ayurveda in India, and I try to take kind of an ancestral look at the way we, live. And our ancestors aren't running around eating gluten-free cookies, right? So it's a treat, like on your birthday or something, but not everyone else's birthday, right? So that's my pet peeve in school. Someone's birthday and the mom brings treats, right? But it's someone's birthday. How many kids are in that class? 40 kids, and you're at 40 birthdays? It's like, no, just your one time.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and I know my son's homeschooled, but I know a lot of families that tell me, for special occasions, when somebody has a special occasion at school, whether that be a holiday party or a birthday, as you said, or just in general, they bring something to school for their child, so then the school will freeze it, I guess, and so then they can pull that out, so then their child's not feeling left out, because then they can eat something that, still tastes good. So I'm such a huge believer. This is why I get so excited talking with you. I'm such a huge believer that food is medicine or it's poison. And I think that today we really want convenience. We're not really looking at health. We're looking at the convenience of how fast can it be, how cheap is it? And we're not looking at what we put on our body has a direct effect and what's going to happen with us.
And your health is your wealth. That is,
I love that.
I tell families all the time, I'm like, my food bill is more expensive. It used to be more expensive than my mortgage. because I feel like that is the most important thing you have. Your own health is your wealth. I don't care if you have to, go to Target and buy your shirts. I don't care. But that's where your money should be going, is to really good food. And that's what people have to make that mind shift. They're still constantly trying to get coupons and make the cheapest food, the cheapest doctor, the cheapest this, but that should be your number one thing, and everything else should come secondary.
Well, I don't really know, because I don't do a lot of drive-thrus, but one of my girlfriends was talking to me about a kid's meal of some sort, and I want to say she said it was like $5 and some change. And I thought, oh my gosh, for what you're getting for $5, you could really make that at home in such a way and have 3 portions of that. Right. So it's not really even that as expensive as it used to. Now, years ago, it used to be a lot harder to find organic. It was a lot harder to find even, I would say, locally grown.
Yeah,
Because if you can't get organic, I feel like locally grown should be your next option. But today,
absolutely.
you don't even have to go into like a Whole Foods. You can go into a traditional regular grocery market. To be honest, it's even cheaper to get organic there because maybe they buy it in bulk, or I don't know how they're getting it. But it's so much easier today than it used to be. So I really feel like there's no excuse. It's really about just learning kind of the different, I hate to use the word hacks, but we get so used to buying this or eating that. It's just really changing your mind.
Mindset.
Yes. So I love that. Now let's go into the second pillar of prevention. So what is the second pillar to the prevention of disease?
So sleep. Sleep is huge.
I laugh because all these autism parents are like, what? We never get that.
Yeah. And that's what breaks my heart, because you detox when you sleep. That we're not walking around right now detoxing, right? Our mind just basically lets go of the whole day when we sleep. So I used to safeguard this so much when my kids were babies. I'd be like, I'd put the blackout blind, and I'm like, oh, don't wake them up. Don't do this, because I wanted them to get proper, like really good sleep, because I knew how important it was. And a poor circadian rhythm is linked to so many diseases. And I actually can tell you a quick example. One of my dear friends, she's a health coach, and she eats well, she exercises, she's clean, she takes all these good supplements. I mean, she's amazing. She's suffering from breast cancer, and it's a pretty bad stage, and she can't fight it. But one thing she does is she sleeps at like 2 or 3 in the morning. She doesn't have that circadian rhythm where she's sleeping earlier and waking up with the sun and doing what our ancestors did. And I've told her a million times, she's like, Sapna, I am a night person. I'm like, no, we're actually not night people. It's just something that you've now gotten used to. So circadian rhythm is so important in preventing diseases. So I would definitely, and so how do you do this?
Yeah.
How do you guys are like, okay, how do we do this?
How do we help the autism moms and dads out there? Because it's hard, especially if our kids aren't sleeping. How do we find that time to sleep?
There's a lot of things, and these are of the 4 pillars. It all kind of blends in together. If you eat wrong, you're not going to sleep good. It all goes together. But one thing I will say is, most people, they wake up in the morning and they're kind of groggy when the alarm clock goes off, and they're really wired at night. And the problem is their circadian rhythm is off, their hormones are off. So how do we protect this? Is that when we wake up in the morning, within 45 minutes of waking up, we should see the sun. We should go outside, no sunglasses, see the sun, and let the sun get on your skin. We live in California, so we can do this here. Let the sun get on your skin, on your face, and on your body and your eyes, because that sets your cortisol level. So you want your cortisol high in the morning, which is your get up and go hormone, right? And you want your melatonin, which is your sleep hormone, to be low in the morning. The problem is we have it backwards. So what's happening is at night, our cortisol is high, it's our wired and our melatonin is low, which we want the melatonin high. So you protect that by first thing in the morning, seeing the sun within 45 minutes. It goes into your eyes and sets your hormones. It's pretty amazing. Natural, right? We can all do that. It's free, right? And then at night, what you want to do is, and throughout the day, see the sun as much as you can. Go outside as much as you can. Get your kids outside. And then at night, within 1 hour of sundown, now it gets dark at like 5, which is very depressing. But within 1 hour of sundown, start to turn the overhead lights off. Okay. In the olden days, they used fire or candles to, see in the evening. Of course, I'm not going to light candles. I have kids. But what I do is I have those Himalayan salt lamps in every one of our rooms, and I just start to turn those on, and it starts to set the ambiance. And I just keep the lights low, and I tell the kids no computers, no iPhones, no TV, or any of that kind of stuff, no e-readers, because that's artificial blue light, and that also messes with their hormones. So none of that 2 hours before bed. Okay. So if you can do that, and I see these parents and their kids are on their iPad all day and their iPad at night, and then they say they can't sleep. It's because their hormones, all the blue light affects your hormones. Okay. So again, it's very simple to do, right? No supplements needed, right?
I love it.
So yeah, it's very simple.
Well, even if you just picked one of those and started with, just
Totally.
going outside for the sun. I mean, we have a dog, so I wake up, I'm already out there first thing in the morning because you don't have a choice when you have a dog. You have to take him to the bathroom.
You have to. Yeah, you have to.
A lot of times, especially on the weekend, because we live in California, as you know as well, we love going to the beach. And we wake up in the morning and sometimes we, barely have any breakfast. Sometimes we haven't even had breakfast yet because it's so early. And we'll just go do a walk on the beach
That's
and come
great.
back. And I'm such a believer that, nature and grounding, and I know that's a whole other
I'm going to
topic.
be talking, yeah, I'm going to be
Yeah,
talking about that.
I love that because
Yeah,
it's something that it doesn't hurt to try, and that's what I love, and that's what this whole education page is about, is giving options to families, and everything you're talking about costs us nothing. So,
yeah.
so let's go
And
to our.
also, well, one more thing, Kristen, the sleep that you get before midnight is more rejuvenating than after midnight. So if you sleep between the hours of 10 and 6, or you sleep between the hours of 12 and 8, which one do you think is more rejuvenating?
10 to 6.
10 to 6, because before 12 is when that's more rejuvenating.
Okay.
So most people don't, they think, well, I get 8 hours. What's the difference, right? It's actually more rejuvenating. So remember, you've got to safeguard your sleep like it's gold. Like it is, like you need to, because you detox at night. You won't be able to detox if you don't sleep well.
Well, and I think our kids too, like I know for my son, we are blessed, we homeschool, and so we don't, his routine and schedule is really based on him, right?
Yeah.
But like, for example, this morning, usually he's up probably around 7 or 8, and this morning he woke up and I could tell he was really tired still, and he had fallen back to sleep, and he doesn't really snore, like he just doesn't snore. And all of a sudden I went in to kind of get him ready because, the therapists were coming and such, and he was snoring so hard, and I thought, I'm just going to let him sleep because he's sleeping so soundly. And I know for me, like, I don't know if I snore because I'm asleep, but I don't think I do. But I would think if I was sleeping that soundly, I just would want my body to kind of naturally wake up. And so I just let him sleep an extra 45 minutes, and he woke up on his own, and he was really happy. And I just thought, gosh, I thought about all those kids that get forced to waking up, and now they're supposed to be learning in school, and their brain just can't
Yeah.
function. I know it set him up for such a better day when I left because, he was happy and wasn't groggy. So I
Yeah.
think,
We're blessed too. Absolutely. Because we homeschool also. So we're
yeah.
blessed too. I just let them sleep in.
Yeah, it's like that, let their body wake up, and I feel like, at least with my son, he does so much better. And I do know detoxing, especially with our kids on the spectrum, they're going through so much. Their whole metabolic,
I know they're getting IV chelation, they're going through saunas, they're going through all this stuff, but if you don't safeguard that sleep, their brain can't detox.
yeah.
So it's super important.
Yeah, I love that you talk. And again, guys, this is something, it doesn't cost anything. It's just, even if it's just one thing, going out and seeing the sun first thing in the morning, just try one thing. So let's talk about the third pillar. Okay, what's the third pillar of prevention of disease?
The third pillar is exercise, or as I like to say, movement, because if you don't move your lymphatic system, disease will set in. So I always tell my patients, if you eat every day and you poop every day, you need to move every day. Some people say, oh, you know what? I exercise on the weekends. So to me, that's like saying, well, I only eat on the weekends. I only poop on the weekends. It's that important because when you sweat, again, you detox, right? You move the joints, you move the lymphatic system, you get everything, the blood flow, the circulation. What happens when you just sit and become stagnant? Again, disease sets in. So definitely, and I tell people, in the olden days, they used to move all day. And then they would sit for an hour. And now we sit all day and we exercise for an hour. People say, oh, I went to the gym this morning and got my hour in. But see, that's not really what it's about. It's about everyday movement. So now you're thinking, well, what if we have to sit on a computer all day? We consult all day in our office. We see so many patients, right? We have to sit. But it's just the little things you can do all day. So you can just, like if you're at the store and you're parking, don't park for the closest parking lot. Just park far and walk, exercise. Take the stairs, don't take the elevator. Just simple things like that. Like Dane and Dr. Rosignol, they have one of those ball chairs, like Dane, where it's like a core thing. And then Dr. Rosignol, he has a standing desk. So these are all the little things you can do, and it's just moving the body every single day. Every single morning, I do 30 minutes hike every morning and every evening. So it's just simple in my neighborhood when I don't have time, just going out. I'm going out, I'm seeing the sun at the same time, and I'm doing my hike. And I do 15 minutes of yoga. I don't have time to go to yoga class in the morning before I work or I homeschool. I just run this practice and I do so many things, right? I just make sure I do 15 minutes of yoga, Pilates, stretch, and I go hike for 30 minutes. I mean, if I don't do that, I don't feel good.
Yeah.
You know? And so it's so simple, just like that. I make my kids like get up and go outside first thing in the morning too. Drink their hot water and lemon first thing in the morning before we start the day. They think we're crazy. I'm crazy, but that's okay.
What I love is, you know, you can incorporate your children into this. And so
Yeah.
I love that you said 15 minutes of yoga, where it's, guys, if we don't have a lot of time, even if like we have like this really pretty room, we call it the wellness room in our house, and it has all these different exercise things, and our hyperbarics, and there are saunas in there. And, you know, often I don't really use a lot of that equipment, but, you know, it's funny. I should though. But a lot of times I'd rather be out walking on the beach or walking my dog or, you know, being in the pool with my son. And it's cool because my son now, he'll jump on one of the bikes in the wellness room and he'll, you know, get on there. And so then I'll maybe jump on something else. And even if it's only 5 minutes, I'm like, okay, it's only 5 minutes. All right, great. We just got our bodies moving. And one thing I know from my son, at least, when his body's moving, like if we do a jog on the beach, sometimes we'll just jog or, you know, he jogs way faster than me these days, but like he'll just, you know, take off and I'll be kind of jogging behind him on the beach. And I noticed his whole, you know, everything, his whole system just feels so much better because the endorphins are now getting in. And I got to tell you that, you know, 15, 20 minutes of watching your kid do that, it's amazing, and it really sets them up for that day. So if you can do that, if you live in an area where there's snow, that's why I brought up the wellness room, where you could have just like a room where you have different equipment like that, or maybe you just do yoga. I mean, honestly, you can go to YouTube nowadays, it costs nothing, and you could find some great yoga things to do with your kids.
Yeah, they have detox yoga flows. I mean, I love that you do that for your child, because I read a study in Europe that said that they allow the kids to play first before they start school. So recess is their first thing, right? Because if you're playing and you're sweating and you're moving, you're going to be able to focus now. Instead of keeping these kids inside a room all day fidgeting, just get it out of the way first, right? It increases the brain flow. So no, that's wonderful. It makes sense.
Well, we have a pool, so we're lucky. But
that's great.
And we have a saltwater pool, but our therapists, anybody that we hire on our team, they know that they have to have their bathing suit and they're going in that pool, and he gets pool time. And to me, you can get so much learning done, and we get just as much. I think we get sometimes more learning done in the pool because their body is moving, and you could do spelling, you could do reading, you could do math. There's so many things you could do.
I love that.
Yeah. So, you know, for families that are watching, if you think, well, how am I going to get this done and that done? We do spelling words while we're swimming laps. So, I mean,
I love that. I love that, Kristen. That's amazing.
So, yeah. So I just, it doesn't cost anything. That's what I love about it. It's free. So, let's talk about the fourth pillar, which is nature. You were talking about. I'm excited to hear about this one.
Yes. So nature, when you go to the beach, like we were talking about, you soak in all the magnesium and all the minerals from the ocean water, all those minerals, right? We know magnesium detoxes, right? Okay, most people are taking their, you know, little magnesium supplements, right? Go to the beach, get the magnesium, okay? Go to the forest, walk and smell the pine trees. Go outside and smell the pollen. Go, you know, all of this stuff. Go to a waterfall, you're going to smell the moss, right? Go in the dirt, go play in the dirt, you're going to get all those, you know, minerals. What happens is all of that is nature's probiotics, right? The problem is we're not doing that, and we're sitting inside all day, right? So now we're getting like Mac and Microsoft, you know, microbiome, right? Because all of that's going to change your microbiome. All of those different smells that you smell from being outside, that's going to change your microbiome, all the bacteria. So now we have iPhone microbiome. So that's like probably one of the cheapest things you can do. We're not in tune with nature. We're not in tune with the rhythms of the earth, right? So then we were like, okay, now let me take a supplement. Well, the supplement doesn't work, you see? So, I mean, I did a whole talk on this and what leaky gut and what, you know, body looks like, like just a cracked desert. It's very hard to rejuvenate that again. So just living a very, natural lifestyle outside, and grounding. I mean, grounding or earthing is like, they call this the new phenomenon, but it's really like you're just going outside and putting your bare feet on the earth, right? And there's so many studies that show that doing this can reduce so much inflammation and reverse chronic diseases. I mean, there's a whole movie called Earthing. If you Google it, you can see the trailer or you can see the movie on YouTube, and it's amazing. It's like there are a lot of physicians behind this that are saying that this was the only thing that worked for their patients.
Wow. And I know those that are watching, I know, they might live in snow, but they have all these amazing seasons, which as much as I love living in California, I love seeing when I travel and you see these seasons, I feel like they really have a great opportunity. They really do, to have just different weather and different opportunities to ground. They have the snow. They have, and I actually watched, I can't remember if it was on Facebook or something. This person would wake up in the morning in the snow and they would go with their feet in the snow. And I think, oh gosh, that must be freezing. But they felt better, about it. I'm not, but even if you just went out and you built a snowman or you just had some fun being outside, I think the reason, at least for me, how I think about it is when we were kids, the reason I feel like, especially 25 plus years ago, why I think our kids were doing better than they are today is we would go outside and we'd play. Yeah. And today, kids just don't do that. And we were just having a discussion about this yesterday. I had read somewhere regarding the cell phones, right? How it was kind of sad that the landline has kind of gone away, because it used to be that this kind of socialness of the family. And I remember being a kid, this happening. The phone would ring and you'd jump up and you'd run and you grab the phone and you'd be like, hi, oh, hold on, Mom, it's for you. And it would be like this whole thing where now everybody has their own cell phone. And we would have dinner time. It felt like before when we were growing up, you'd have dinner time. And if the phone rang during dinner time, at least for our family, it was like, either one, we didn't answer it, or B, if we answered it, I remember saying, sorry, it was dinner time, we'll have to call you back, click. Like, it was so focused on the family. And I feel like, but part of that was when the street lights went on, that meant it was time for dinner. Like, I remember, going to school, coming home, doing my homework real quick, and then going outside, and I remember playing on my bike, playing soccer, in the front yard with somebody, hopscotch, roller skating, everything. And then you would be bummed when those street lights would go on, because you'd be like, oh, I can't, I have to go home. I don't see kids playing outside anymore. I live in a neighborhood where there's a lot of kids. It's so rare that I see any of them outside riding their bikes or playing hopscotch or doing any of that. And when you talk about the microbiome, you have to wonder, why is it? Because in the last 20 years, we all have cell phones, we have our laptops, we have our iPad. We didn't have that back in the, I know it sounds like I feel so old. We didn't have that back in the day.
It wasn't
not
even that old. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was just listening to this podcast the other day, and this woman was talking about her story about her autistic son, who she basically lived in New York City, and she basically left the city and went to the country and lived by the ocean. And she basically took him out of his environment for 1 year. He was severely autistic, and they swam in the ocean every single day. And it was just no city, no lights, no nothing. It was just country, ocean, outdoors, and nature every single day. And this boy, she said now he's 17 and he has a girlfriend, he has a job. I mean, everything that she's like, there's nothing was working for it. Supplements weren't working, anything. She just ignored every doctor's thing and just used her intuition and just used nature to heal him. It was such a great story, because I don't think a lot of us do that.
I think when you talk about common sense, as you said earlier in the beginning of this, just trying to get back to, at least for us, when I look at my son, just trying to get back to doing what we used to do, spending time together, quality time. I think, even if it's 15, 20 minutes and you're out there, running around and having fun, our therapists, when we talk to them, we always say, have fun. It's about having fun, regardless what the goal is. You're going to hit whatever goal that is if you're just out there playing, being a kid. And they sometimes kind of like, oh, really? And then all of a sudden you'll watch them in the pool and they'll be doing handstands and they'll be doing this and they'll be having all this fun. And all of a sudden, all these goals start going whoop, straight up because they're out there in nature, having fun, moving their bodies, and it's a beautiful thing to see. And again, it doesn't cost anything. It's just changing that mindset. So thank you so much. I love this. I could talk all day about this. I am I love things, one, that don't cost anything, and it's something that we could easily just change in our own home. One of the things we also have, and I wanted to bring this up too, we have dimmer switches in our home. And so when it becomes nighttime, we start dimming everything.
That's great.
And it's easy. Like, I think it costs that's the only thing I could think it costs something. It's like $5 or $10 to switch out. I mean, really inexpensive though. So, how do people find you? And do you work with people all over the world, or do they have to only live in California?
No. I'm Raising Stages Integrated Pediatrics. You can find me there at the website, www.raisingstagespediatrics.com. And I Skype my patients. I have patients in Indonesia. I have patients everywhere. So I'm not always in the office, but I can be, found on virtual Skype.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for taking the time, and just thank you for everything you're doing to help our kiddos out there.
Well, thank you so much, Kristen, for having me.
And thank you, everyone who's watching. And remember, it's just taking one little thing she talked about and just changing one thing and then changing another and just trying it. It can't hurt to try. And that's what we're all about, is just trying to find new options out there. Until next time. Bye, guys.